If you really want to understand Iran today, you have to look way past the headlines and deep into its history. Because for 2,500 years, Iran has managed to outlast pretty much every single empire that has tried to conquer it. So, how on earth did they do that? Let's find out. Just think about that for a second. 17. Not one or two, 17 separate empires have tried and failed to put Iran away for good. That isn't just a coincidence, that's a massive statistical anomaly. It's a pattern that practically screams for an explanation. So that leads us to the big question, the one we're going to tackle in this entire explainer. Why? Why has Iran, or Persia, as it was known for most of history, survived when so many other global powers have crumbled to dust? To get our heads around this, let's start by just looking at the historical scoreboard. Because when you see it all laid out, the consistency of this pattern is, well, it's pretty staggering. I mean, just look at this list. It is a who's who of historical heavyweights. We're talking the Assyrians, Alexander the Great, Arab caliphates, the Mongols, even the Soviets in the modern era. Every single one of them was, in their time, an almost unstoppable force. And yet the result was always the same. They're gone, and Iran is still here. Okay, so where does this incredible resilience come from? Well, the first piece of the puzzle isn't about armies or leaders or anything like that. It's about the land itself. You see, Iran's geography is maybe its greatest strategic weapon. Think of the Iranian plateau as this giant, high-altitude fortress. It's a huge tableland just sitting there, walled off on all sides. You've got the massive Zagros Mountains in the west, the Alborz Mountains in the Caspian Sea up north, the Arabian Sea to the south, and then just brutal, unforgiving deserts to the east. Any army that wants to invade has to slog its way up and over these incredible barriers, stretching their supply lines thinner and thinner until they snap. This is exactly why even the Romans, after 700 years of trying, never managed to hold a single inch of that plateau. But, mountains and deserts are only part of the story. The real secret to Iran's survival isn't just about keeping invaders out. It's about what happens when they actually get in. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures this paradox at the very heart of Iranian history. Time and time again, the people who managed to conquer Persia with swords and arrows were, in the end, conquered by Persian culture. They'd show up as conquerors and leave as Persians. So here's the bottom line. You can't really conquer 50,000 villages that all share the same language, the same stories, the same identity, an identity that's been unbroken for 2,500 years. What invaders eventually figured out was that to actually rule this place, they had to adopt its culture, its art, its way of doing things. But, and this is a huge but, there was always a line you did not cross. The second a foreign ruler tried to mess with the Persian language or their customs or who they were, the whole country would rise up as one. Okay, so let's fast forward to today. How has this ancient fortress mindset, this deep sense of cultural identity, morphed into a sophisticated military strategy for the 21st century? Iran's modern military thinking basically has two parts, like a 1-2 punch. The first is called forward defense. The idea is simple. Fight your enemies over there, far away from your home, so the war never reaches your own borders. This is where you see proxies, missiles, and all that. But if that fails, they switch to mosaic defense. And that's where the goal is to turn Iran itself into an absolute meat grinder for any invader, using guerrilla warfare to bleed them completely dry. So this forward defense uses 5 key tools, like the 5 fingers of a hand. You've got proxies, which give them plausible deniability. You have drones, or UAVs, which are a cheap and effective way to project power. Small, fast naval assets are perfect for hit-and-run tactics at sea. Cyber gives them a covert weapon. And of course, long-range missiles are their ultimate insurance policy, their main deterrent. And if an enemy ever did make it to Iran, here's how that mosaic defense would look. It's not about meeting an army head-on. It's about setting a trap. First, you'd use terrain and artillery to funnel enemy forces right into a pre-planned kill zone. Then, bam, you hit them from all sides with ambushes and drone strikes. And just as quickly as it started, before they can even figure out what's happening, your forces have just melted back into the cities or the mountains. And don't just take my word for it. This quote is from a U.S. Army analysis, and it gets right to the point. What they're saying in military speak is that this strategy is an absolute nightmare for a conventional, high-tech army. It's designed to blur the line between soldier and civilian, turning every single town into a complex, lethal, and incredibly frustrating battlefield. And if you want to see this entire strategy in action today, there is no better or more important place on Earth to look than Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. 20%. Just let that number sink in. 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil consumed on the planet every single day passes through this tiny sliver of water right off the coast of Iran. The global economy literally depends on it. Now, what Iran is doing here has a fancy military name, Anti-Access/Area Denial, or A2/AD. But here's what it really means in plain English. The goal isn't to beat a superpowers navy in a fair fight. The goal is just to make entering that strait so painful, so costly, and so dangerous that no one would be crazy enough to even try. Iran calls its new strategy a smart control doctrine, and it's incredibly sophisticated. It's a defense in layers. They've got mobile air defense systems to protect their swarms of small boats from jets. They use drones to pick and choose very specific targets. Missiles can be launched from all over the place, from hidden silos inland to offshore platforms, making them almost impossible to stop all at once. And then there's electronic warfare, spoofing GPS signals, creating chaos, and making safe navigation a total gamble. So, where does this all leave us? After looking at 2,500 years of history and a very modern military strategy, we can finally answer that big question we asked at the beginning. And here it is. Iran's enduring power isn't just one thing. It's a powerful cocktail of 3 ingredients: a natural fortress of geography that just wears invaders out, a deep, unshakable cultural identity that ends up absorbing its conquerors, and a modern asymmetric military strategy that's built not just to win, but to outlast anyone. This takeaway from a recent analysis just nails it. In a place like the Strait of Hormuz, having the most advanced ships or the biggest guns doesn't automatically mean you win. Iran has effectively weaponized its own geography, and that fact changes the entire game. And that leaves us with one last big thought. The historical record here is just unbelievably consistent. For 2,500 years, every emperor, king, and general who made plans based on the idea that Iran was a temporary problem has been proven wrong. So if history is any guide at all, what does it mean for any power today to make plans that assume this time Iran will simply go away?